First time chairing here for
You're
a
heckling.
committee meeting. I've led
Heckling.
other meetings, but this is different,
Heckling. Yes, I'm heckling you.
right? You're heckling, oh. I'm like, what is the hissing? Okay, all right, so we'll
Just act
call the
like a
meeting
mom.
to order.
Yep.
And do roll call. We've got Alder Campbell, Alder Weary, and Alder Eck here. So, motion to approve the agenda?
And Alder Stoyer, if I could, Mr. Chair, Alder Stoyer, I think is excused because.
Oh, yes, Alder Sawyer is excused, he's on vacation.
Yeah.
Okay, so motion to approve agenda? is that-
Motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, Alder
Second.
Weary, motion to approve, second by Alder Campbell. And any discussion? So,
Maybe just ask
all
for
in
the
favor,
vote.
say aye.
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 Okay,
See, you're natural.
I'm trying.
How much?
And motion to, or asking for a motion to approve the minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes?
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, no discussion. I guess I should have said that first, but, okay, so,
Business.
regular business, consideration with possible action on the request to consider alternatives to overnight on-street parking ban ordinance to allow overnight on-street parking held at the June 22nd, 2022 Improvement and Services Committee. And this was presented by Alder Weary. And I do know we have people to speak on this. Should I,
I'll make a
ask for
motion to open the floor.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So we have opened the floor, so if you want to come up and speak.
Yeah, this meeting that was held on June 22nd.
You need to
Was
come
that-
up to the podium here.
And then we just need to name it.
Yeah, we need your name and address, please, for our records.
Hi, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Juan Chavez, 1070 Shadow Lane. Yeah, my question is, this meeting that you guys held on June 22nd, was that open to the public or just for you guys?
Open to the public, it's here.
Do you guys send letters, emails, or something to inform such meeting?
Everything.
Twice.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, well, it's on the city's website. It gives the agendas of the upcoming meetings.
Okay, but there was no notice to the neighborhood or whatever?
Well, this is, what we're discussing is for the entire city. It's not for just on Shadow Lane. I don't know if there's something different that you're
No, I
referring to.
realize that is for
The whole city,
citywide.
yeah,
But
yeah.
the meeting itself, I mean, unless you go to the site, then you're not aware that there's a meeting that is gonna be held for this issue,
I think
correct?
it's probably, if I could.
Yes,
Mr.
go ahead.
Chairman. Do you like Madam Chair? What do you, Madam Chairman?
Madam Chairman.
I just want to.
Whatever you want to call me, I don't care.
I just
You'll say
wanna-
Madam Chairman, I guess,
That
yeah.
sounds cool.
Mr. does not
Yeah.
sound right.
A lot of the things we handle really can't, not effectively communicated to the whole city. So, like we handle a bunch of things at Parks Committee, it's impossible to get to everybody. So, I mean, I send out surveys, and things like that, and that's probably how you found out.
We,
Just
we,
found out
we
right
actually saw it for the first time at that meeting.
So we held it because some issues, it takes more input and more feedback, so we didn't want to rush
Okay,
it.
now,
There was no
this
rush.
is just under consideration, or is gonna take
Right.
effect after this meeting?
Oh, it's under consideration. We haven't even, we didn't come up with the wording on it or anything yet.
Okay.
This is where we discuss it, and then we only propose it to the council, and it'll be gone over to council, so you can more than be welcome there. This is where we feel out everybody, and we bring it to the council, and we advise them. Doesn't
You guys-
mean it's gonna pass, it still has to go to a vote.
It has to go to the full council.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That's
Well,
all
do
I
you have a input on it?
Well, yeah, I'm against it because of, like I said, 1070 Shadow Lane. When we bought the house, we were aware of the Packer games and everything. We had no issue with that every Sunday. But now, because those, what do you call it, Airbnbs or party houses, whatever you want to label them, they're becoming more and more common along the street. it is a real pain in the behind, especially when, I mean, you gotta call the authorities sometimes just to quiet them down because they can get really noisy. Wake up in the morning, you find litter, bottles, paper, cigarette butts all over the yard. So if this becomes, you guys take that overnight, what's it, 3 to 5?
Yeah,
that
3 to
you can
5.
park,
Mhm.
then there'll be vehicles parked all over the street. It is bad right now, but it's gonna get worse. And,
I never thought it'd be bad. You know? So I brought it
Straight
up.
Park Packer games is the big thing.
the Packer games, no.
Oh,
We can
okay.
deal with the Packer games.
I see.
Is the party houses. If that is open season per se, then it's gonna be vehicles all over the street, day in and day out,
The bars.
and the bars too. So we, well, I'm fairly speaking for them too, we're completely opposed against this for that fact.
Okay.
And besides, in my opinion, I mean, why would you give up the revenue that you guys get right now, the city, when it comes to overnight parking? I don't got the amount, but I heard something over 300,000 a year.
270.
Or 70. I mean, that's extra money on the coffers for the city, you know, for the enforcement, not that 3 to 5.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, does anybody else on the floor want to speak? Okay.
I've been on Shadow Lane. since
Your name and your
Janice
address.
O'Brien. Been on Shadow Lane since
The address?
1076 Shadow Lane.
Okay.
Lived there since 1963. Love my neighbor. I did love my neighborhood. I don't want overnight parking. We put up with a lot of stuff on the Packer games, which we didn't know we were going to have to do because we don't know that the Packers are going to do like they did. But I don't want to move. I'm 80 years old, and I want some of the rules followed in our neighborhood. The party houses are okay, but I miss my neighborhood.
Okay, does anybody have any questions?
And this overnight parking is not going to be a good idea. You're going to get people from the bars, and I'm not going to like it.
Okay.
And I don't think it's fair. So,
Oh,
that's all.
ma'am, just want to make sure,
I'm
does
sorry.
anybody else have any
I'm sorry.
comments, questions? No, okay. By the way, you do not look 80. I just have to say that. I can't believe that. Wow, you look great. But thank you for coming. We appreciate your input.
Okay.
Anybody else want to speak?
Hi, I'm Annette Chavez at 1070 Shadow Lane, the other half.
What was your name?
Annette.
Okay.
So we had, you know, my other neighbor had just printed this out for us, the stuff that about the parking on here. And this is something about parking only in front of your house. Is that something different? Because we asked police officers in the city street, you can park anywhere.
That's for the overnight parking, if you were to request an exemption, because you can do a certain amount every year.
Right.
If you have a lot
But
of
they don't
people.
park just in front of their house. These party houses, sometimes they have 10, 15 cars at a house, plus what they park in the yard. It's
That would
not
be a
just in front of their
violation,
house.
right? I mean,
It's
Yeah,
not.
it would need to be.
And police officers' house
reported.
know they can park wherever they want at city street.
no.
And even in the daytime, this is just part of my house. You can fit 2 cars, sometimes 3. They park in the middle. You can't fit car any way you want. They just pull. They don't look where they're parking. They take the whole section. So we want to have something. We can't have it. Our neighbor's daughter just got married last year in June. I actually had to go with my neighbors. Can you pull your car? Can you pull your car? We see a spot so they could pull their cars in after they came home from the reception, because the party houses are filling up the street. They had no place. We can't even enjoy our own neighborhood anymore. It's terrible. It's, you know, it's crazy. So then, this is my other thing. I actually wrote stuff down. I'm against it, by the way. I think it should be longer. I think it should be from 2 to 6. Because they come after the bars and they're pulling up these houses and they're slamming their car doors and they're swearing and cussing and drinking. I work in the morning. I get up at 4:30 in the morning to go to work. And Jan doesn't work, but she's 80 years old. She just had heart surgery. She doesn't need to be here and stuff, you know? And they should probably maybe increase the tickets, because they don't care. They have no respect for anybody in that neighborhood. They think it's party town, they think it's a college town. They don't care about the residents that live there. We don't exist. And you,
If I can interject.
yeah,
And understand too, I mean, even people even in the Brown County, some places do have overnight parking, like for,
Right.
you know, go over and visit mom, and
Right.
it's like you gotta move your car in because you can't park on the street,
Right.
you know, so, I mean, other
they can-
cities,
but they
so
can al-
people come into town, they don't even know the ordinances
Right.
too, so just understand that,
But-
but not an excuse.
right, but we have to call, you have to call it in too, right? They can call it in. You get so many, I guess you can do it 12 weeks out of the year. You can, call in, total 12 weeks total.
Well, it depends.
Okay.
You're allowed up to 6 instances,
A 2 weeks period, right?
but that 2-week period have to be contiguous.
Okay, right,
So you can't just take 12 weeks and split it up.
okay.
You get 6 occurrences, and
6
if that
occurrences, okay.
occurrence is 3 days, that's your
That's
occurrence,
your
it's
occurrence,
done. So,
Okay. And that's another thing they don't have. And then, I think it should, they're raising, actually even charge more money for it, because it's a nuisance. They cross over, we have elderly people in our neighborhood, I have tons of pictures I take every weekend, that will go across the sidewalks that it is, they park on the grass. If it's supposed to be public roads, we can't even do our public sidewalks. They cross the whole, we have people with walkers, canes. Luckily, we don't have the blind people that live, we used to have blind brother and sister. I figured that would happen once with them. And try to get somebody to come over and give them tickets, it's ridiculous sometimes. And her husband parked one wheel on the grass one time and got a ticket. They can park half a vehicle on them, and nothing happens to them. It's crazy. And it's only gonna get worse if it has, all night, they don't even have, restriction on how many people can be in these houses. Sometimes they have 30 people in a house. The hotels, you have a restriction. The one neighbor does have a restriction, they only allow 8 people, that's it. Last year they kicked somebody out, they had 12. They actually gave up their weekend, they had to leave. They had 12 people, she goes, nope, 8's the most you can have. They actually monitor it. These other houses, they don't care. They're cussing and swearing all day long. And to put more parking out there, it's gonna just bring more and more people overnight, and they do it all night long. So you're gonna have more car doors slamming, more, stuff going on. It just brings more and more, that just brings more and more people that can have that access that we can't have. And it's not, so if it's just in front of your house, yeah, that's 2 cars, 2 to 3 cars, that'd be great. If it's just in front of your house. Otherwise, my other thing is maybe make a permit, have only maybe so many per house. But Mark Ander has said that we don't have to pay for the permits if this happens in town. They'd have to monitor it. So what's the difference between monitoring that and monitoring the 3 to 5 parking? They still have to drive around, right? So what would be the difference if you just gave us passes? And I don't like to pay for them, we already paid taxes already. What would be the pay taxes? I mean, you pay taxes for, for stuff like that, but they would still get their money if you didn't have a permit. Because, we all have family, they're going to family reunion. We all have family that comes over, friends that come over. And I feel bad for some of the houses, like you said, they don't have big enough driveways. So is that be an option, like you said, a few times a year, or give them passes so that, you could, permit? I don't know. It's just, we don't know what to do about the situation that we're in either. We love our neighborhood. Before we knew we all of our neighborhood, we could go talk to somebody. But you bet you if you call, see how many times you call police officers? And I send an email almost every weekend to Justin, I'm sure he's tired of hearing about me, and to the parking people. Every weekend I send tons, and I don't know if you know about that, I tend to send emails every weekend about the parking situation. Just to remind them, some weekends they don't come at all. Last weekend they came twice, the week before that they never came at all. So people park for nothing. They can get a heck of a lot more money. If they want more money for $270, they could probably get $400,000. If you need more money, that'd be a heck of a way to put more officers on, and that would pay for them. Easily if you can get more people to work, I know. But that would easily pay for the revenue just in our neighborhood alone. You could easily pay for one person's revenue in one night for the wage probably for about a month. So that's how much parking is going on that they don't even get tickets for.
Okay, well, does anybody have any questions or?
You know,
Creates a lot of questions, yes. I never really thought of the district over there. That makes-
And it's a unique
Make-
situation.
make
for
it
sure.
and it's getting worse. Before they were told us that houses were only gonna stay on one side of Oneida, but now they find this loophole and they're all on our side. And they even get to park across the apron of the driveway. And so you back out of your driveway, you can't even see out of your driveway because now they get to cross the apron of the driveway because that's considered their property. And last year, 2 years ago, we had a race down our street, the drag racing. So the lady had called the police, and that's also when that shooting happened. I think it was at Fisk Park last year, 2 years ago. I think it was Fisk, a couple years ago. There was a shooting. So Ashwaubenon police had came, and then they were done. But she had called the homeowners, and they go, "What do you want us to do about it? We're out of town." They don't care. The homeowners don't care. They're homeowners, but they don't live there. They're not residents, so they don't care. They just want the money. They don't care if they have 100 cars parked there. They don't care. You know, you can't even sit outside and enjoy your day because there's so many people there that cussing and swearing all day and all night, blaring music. And we can't even enjoy our time anymore. So if you bring more and more cars open, they're going to just have more and more people that are going to stay overnight. You know, so I don't know. It said they only park in front of your house, but they don't. They don't just park in front of their house. You know?
Yeah, it sounds like you have a big issue over there that is,
Yeah.
it's more than the overnight
Yeah.
parking.
And it's on Shadow, it's
a
on
lot
Liberty,
of
it's
other
on
issues.
Gross, it's on Thorndale, it's the whole, because they're expanding more and more and more. It's on Liberty, it's the whole area. You know, so,
Okay, well, thank you for
Okay,
sharing.
thank you.
Appreciate you coming.
thanks for
forward.
listening.
Yeah.
Motion to close floor.
A motion, yeah. Oh, anybody? Oh, motion to
second it.
close.
I'll
Okay,
second
all right, those in favor,
Aye.
say aye.
I
Those opposed, say nay.
have a question for staff. So, I never thought of the whole event thing over there. So, when they say, I guess there's two issues I'm kind of trying to clarify. So when they park on private property, their grass, that's not considered overnight parking, correct?
No, there is actually an ordinance that provides an exception to allow for parking within front and side yard setback areas on game days and for
Citywide.
any event in the stadium that is expected to draw a crowd of 20,000 or more. So for instance, last weekend with the soccer game, we did authorize lawn parking for the soccer game because we expected crowds. We do in excess of 70,000 tickets at that site.
I dropped my kids off and drove right up behind the Packer houses there, you know, and just to drop them off, you know. And, I mean, they were parked 4 or 5 blocks that way. Now, I would assume if people had too much to drink and they could get away with leaving their car there overnight, it's a good thing, but it's a bad thing for the neighbors, you know. It's a tough one.
It is, but again, I think for the shadow, that area, that maybe there's other things to be addressed, and that would be whatever, noise and just some of the different things that were mentioned. So it's more than the overnight parking, this is basically what I'm trying to say, but
It'll probably it could create more issues. It's hard.
well, if there's a limit, and is there a limit to how many cars, like she was mentioning about it being in front of your own property?
Well,
You know,
as Operations Director Pirlot had indicated in the staff memo that we provided
Yeah.
in the packet,
trying to find it.
the policy is overnight parking requests are for in front of that residence only.
That's what I thought, and I looking through here to find it, but, so there's a whole enforcement.
Well, and I understand what Ms. Chavez is talking about. We have to spread our enforcement out around 46 square miles of city, and we can't just concentrate in that one area. Otherwise, we would be subject to criticism for targeting the neighborhood as well.
Sure.
So we do have to be able to provide that service around the city. So we can't just continue. I understand. I get her concern. I share that concern. But we also have to be cognizant of being able to provide that service around the city as well. So we can't just stay in the stadium district.
But I would add that during the, just for the residents, I'm Chris Birlett, I'm the parking manager and the operations director, and we are not tired of hearing from you.
I already said, I'm sorry.
Good eyes, ears
I'm a
for the
pain in the
neighborhood.
butt, and I
Yeah,
apologize,
you're,
but I hear.
and we have
I
several
hear.
people like you around the city that they do provide positive, good input like you
I hear.
do. So
I hear.
that does help with our enforcement, so thank you.
We've had incidents with the shootings with people and the cops being called last year, a big one, in
But-
fight, she said
I
fighting.
called,
But it's just,
yeah,
yeah,
tased. They had a tase them.
So,
Would you?
but related to the enforcement, if someone calls in, I have this car, black BMW, whatever, and we're parking in front of 123 ABC Street. And they park in front of 246 ABC Street, but it is that same car. And we drive up, parking division has a list of approved overnight parkers that we leave alone. There, when we go by address, so we go in front, we drive past 246 ABC Street, they didn't call it in, they get a citation. So, and a lot of these are next door across the street. Now, when parking division is there, they would get a citation even though typically will call back and say, well, I called in and say, but you're not parked in front of the residence or the property in which you requested. Because that's
staff
part
does-
of the enforcement policy.
Staff does explain that to the person calling in when they're making the call. That is explained at the time of their request.
And we've gotten complaints, they've settled down over the years that there's just too much detail that you're giving us. It's like, yeah, but we want to make sure that, we prefer not to issue citations, just park properly. That's what we're
I
asking.
think you should increase the
They
citation.
have all the same rules. Do all the Packer houses have the same rules?
There,
Or is it by
Or we
owner?
can open the floor if you want again.
okay,
Right now,
motion,
I'll make a motion to open the floor.
I'll second it.
okay, so we're
If you'd
gonna
like to
motion,
speak.
we're gonna open the floor again, all those in favor?
Aye.
Open the
Aye.
floor, okay, and those against, or
And
stay?
and if I,
No, I don't, I'll.
and I apologize, it's just when we
This is how-
have a
yeah,
closed
sorry.
floor, we can only talk,
Oh,
but
yeah,
we'll gladly
sorry.
listen to anybody. It's just,
That's okay.
no, that's okay.
Yeah,
All right.
if you
It's
wanna
okay.
talk, we just have to open the floor, so.
Yeah.
We're learning.
I always
You're
like
learning.
to talk.
It's a process.
Not always
And,
Staff can do it,
You
but-
provided your name and
I'm
address.
Kelly Caters.
Okay.
And I live with my mom now because I'm helping her out because she's been sick.
So Kelly
Um,
Caters at, what was the address again?
1076 Shadow.
Okay,
I've been there for almost 2 years. Well, I lived there my whole life. But we have one of the Packer houses right next door, which is right, the garage driveway is right by my bedroom. Well, we have a fence. And right by mom's bedroom, and the cussing and swearing. And we don't sleep all weekend long. I mean, I've done my share of partying and stuff, I get it. But there's gotta be a limit. There's fighting constantly across the street, throwing stuff at 1, 2 in the morning. And we don't care if they party till 12 o'clock. It's supposed to cut off at 10:30. Shut up. Well, anyway, we've had people from over there, and I've looked outside my window because they were really loud, and there were 3 guys standing there going to the bathroom through our fence. Nuh-uh. She's 80 years old. She doesn't need that kind of. She doesn't need to listen to them screaming F that all the time from across the street. There was a fight one night. One night I had to call the cops. The cops were there maybe 6 times because as soon as the cops left, they'd come back outside. And it was all a big family. And they ended up arresting one of the kids because they were fighting in the road and I could hear him. He punched the guy, his brother, and I could hear his head hit through the window. And that's when I called, because once that starts, nuh-uh. But yeah, the parking, and they park in their backyard. They'll park in the backyard if they have to put all the cars in the driveway, and I don't know. I don't know if that's right or not, if they're allowed to or not. I don't know.
In a rear yard?
In the house next door, if they get permission from the owner, that's what they said. We got permission from the owner of the house
I believe
to
zoning
park in the
ordinance
backyard.
provides for rear yard, just not front and side yard.
Right.
Not back.
No, I think
They
rear
can?
backyards, I believe, are allowed under the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
And certain things after, it can't be junk cars or abandoned.
No,
They have to be
yeah,
operable, vehicle, like that, I'm sure they are.
yeah, I get that.
Can I clarify, though, even in parking in yards, nothing can hang over the sidewalk, they can't park on the apron, they can't park on the
They can
sidewalk.
park on the apron, they cannot
Can't
obstruct the
sidewalk.
sidewalk,
Oh,
but they can park
Okay.
on the apron, and if the apron is not deep enough to allow the car to be parked perpendicular to the street, they can pull up crossways and park parallel to the street on narrow
Okay.
lanes.
Okay.
Just to clarify, the situation with noise, fighting, things like that, that would be a police issue, correct? Yeah,
Correct.
okay. Anybody else have any questions?
so
Yeah.
ordinance for the city, I mean, for the Packer houses, they must have a separate set of rules, or do they go by it as citizens?
They're not supposed to.
Yeah.
See, now excuse me, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, go ahead.
That's actually one of the considerations that we need to take when we're looking at ordinance language, is we cannot create separate ordinances for the stadium district, which is why if you read the lawn parking ordinance, it simply states that parking in the front and side yard setback is allowed on Packer game days and on days where an event at the stadium is expected to draw a crowd of 20,000 or more. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but what you will not find is a geographic description of where that can occur. So myself, living on the far east side near the Woods Golf Course, if I wanted to do it and I could find somebody who's willing to pay $20 to park in my front yard and watch a Packer game in my garage, I'm perfectly legal to do that on Packer game days, because we can't differentiate. That's illegal to discriminate one area versus another if you don't have some justifiable reason to do so. So when we're looking at parking regulations, these parking regulations have to apply equally
Sure.
all across the city, regardless of where you are.
And it's actually a zoning regulation for that, but parking works with zoning to enforce
Correct.
that, at least. Just a quick item, I'm sure maybe some or all of you already know, the Airbnb type properties don't only exist in the Packer area, they're all over the
All
city.
over the city.
Right.
Parking division interacts with them, way away from the Packer district year round, for similar parking issues.
So, they do have the same rules as everybody else then? I mean, like, if they had a birthday party, they had a big birthday party last week, whatever, they could park in the back if there was nothing going on?
That's,
I
the
mean-
parking in the back is under the zoning ordinance, zoning sixth floor, the inspections department
Okay.
would oversee that. And I believe if you're in the rear yard, they consider it temporary storage as long as the vehicle is operational, has a license and title on it, it can be moved. It's referred to as temporary storage.
Okay,
But you can't have that in the side yard or the front yard. And if you're a corner property, if you live on a corner, you have no rear yard. You have two fronts
Two fronts.
and two sides. So then there is no rear yard, there would be no parking on the grass.
so they
except
can go on the
back-
side though? Like,
No,
because they do
there are
come-
restrictions on side yards, because
Oh, okay.
there are setbacks within the side yard. And in front of the house and on the side, under zoning ordinance, the driveway apron has to directly lead to a recognized parking area, which has to be hard surfaced.
Right.
So you can't just park on the grass. Now, my understanding, I don't know, I don't work in inspection. I have been informed by folks that, for temporary parking situation, as long as there are hard surface where the wheels are, so if somebody were to put paver blocks down where the four wheels go, that's a temporary as
They
long
could
as you're
do
not in
that.
the setback, the side yard setback.
Because I know next door to us, they park on the side, almost up to our fence.
Okay.
So, and they'll, down the driveway, on our lot, well, not in our yard, but, or my mom's yard, but just right down the side. But that's, I
Okay.
think, I think that's all
Anything
I
else?
have. Nope, I'm good.
We knew you wanted
Okay.
to talk.
All right, thank you.
Do I have that look on my face?
Does anybody else have anything to add? Can you step forward, please?
Okay, sorry.
We're not like somebody can.
Oh, yeah. Were you on that last
No,
one?
I-
Send that again, pain in the butt.
Right? Oh, yeah.
The other thing is too, this reason that they're having problems parking, all their garages are all decked out, okay? They don't want anybody parking in the garages, but they will get a fine. I mean, they have to pay, they signed a contract with these party houses, right? They have to follow their rules, but they don't have to follow the city rules. They want the city rules changed
Well,
to
they're supposed to.
accommodate them. But they have all their garages all nice, they're nice, beautiful garages with the games and the alcohol and all that, refrigerators. But they don't let anybody park in their garages because they don't want to get them messy. So, and then they park on the street or across the sidewalks so that's another thing that they don't allow.
See, when I drive by, it looks like the partying's going on top of the garage like a deck.
Depends on
Somewhere.
the other.
I mean, I
probably
live
the-
right over by
Probably
there,
the
so-
other half of Oneida, what is that, west of Oneida Street, or worse, east of Oneida Street. So you have to watch, so yeah. This is all extra.
Yeah.
So we don't know, it's just what to do. It's like, we love our neighborhood, obviously. But, we shouldn't have to move, because I know a lot of their solutions is if you don't like it, move. But when they bought these houses, they also knew the rules. And people are trying to change the rules, but these rules have been here for how long? And we abide by them all of our times that we've been there, and now people want to change all the rules because it doesn't fit their situations, And I can see where, I have a plumber who lives by West High School. He lives in one of those older homes. He got $300 in tickets in 1 month for parking on the road because he didn't have enough in his driveway, because he said they are older houses, they're smaller, they don't have, it was made for one family years ago. You only had one car if you're lucky, but now people have 2, 3 cars, their kids are getting older, and I can see that,
Well, that is why there's a need for it.
right, But I said we've all had it's tit for tat, it depends which area you live in. You said you can't pinpoint, so it's kind of a hard decision, kind of like Robert Tina, her place, it's our neighborhood's changed so much too, and that's what's hurting us. We love, and we don't want to see it go downhill. It may look nice on the outside, they fix all these houses, but they don't care what happens. Those people don't live there. They just rent them out. They don't come and see what happens. They're not there all day. I would like to go to their neighborhoods and blare my music by their windows and swear and cuss all day and see if they would like it. Or come slam car doors at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and, out there making noise. They would not like that. Chris said he was going to give me their phone numbers.
Yes, I
But-
just actually got that.
But you know what? But that's not to help me because I don't want them to know that I'm calling. I shouldn't have to be the one that they know who's calling. I'll call you at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, or come down our street, come downstairs.
That's been done already, so it's okay.
Huh?
That's been done already, it's okay.
Come down our street those times of the night.
The other day.
Did you? Yeah.
Well, not that night, no.
But so
Okay.
if you can have a solution for us too,
Yep.
So,
Well, thank you for coming to share.
thank you.
Motion to close the
Okay.
floor?
Second?
All in favor, say
Aye.
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 All right. Nays? All right. So, go
Sure,
ahead.
I'll wait in. Where to start? I mean, obviously, the issues in the Shadow Lane area are bigger than just parking. I mean,
Yes.
I started on council in 2002, and that whole area was totally different than it is now. I mean, we've all grown up, or grown through what happened. I mean, it used to be the city had an application they had to go through, and they had a neighborhood meeting, and the council could approve or deny it. That's the way it went for quite a while. We denied a share of them, but then somebody sued or something, went to the state, and the state overruled it, and there was a ruling that you have to allow them. However, they still have a license, so which is why it's important to call every time. it builds a case, I guess you could say. So if we bring up an address, it'll show there's this many calls, then we can bring their license up and revoke it. Because we did that on the other side of Shadow, up near Oneida. We took somebody's license away because they were having all kinds of problems. So I always encourage people to call, every time, all the time. Any issue, please do. And call me too, that's fine. And then I do have that list of contact people and owners. I'll give that out to anybody. Not just call the police, call them. I don't care if they're in California, Illinois, Green Bay, call them at the same time. Say, hey, somebody's next door here, cursing and swearing, peeing in the yard. I'm up, you're gonna be up. I'm a firm believer in that. You bet, ride them. They need to be responsible. Yep, I totally agree, but,
I mean, I do.
so I feel for you, believe me.
Take a
I've-
picture, but don't
I've-
share it.
I've lived it with you. I mean, I've been out there with cameras and taking video and taking pictures of things and sending it to police, so.
Go back on the pad,
It's-
you gotta start taking pictures of them.
No, I've been, believe me, I do more than I should. If you know me, I tend
It's
to
like
go a little
a
far.
detective.
So, but bringing it back to parking, I just want you to know it had nothing to do, the request didn't come from them at all. It came from more of people who had small driveways, one garage, they have 3-4 cars and they can fit 2 cars. That's where it came from. And that's why it comes up every few years to see if there's something more we can do. Can it be citywide, or can we find maybe a more relaxed, expanded, exception process? Where if, you show you have limited room, you could, I don't know how that would work. I don't know if another city does that. I would love to find some middle ground here, because there has to be, because we don't want a free-for-all, certainly not. That would be horrible, like you said. People would park and go to the bars. They would park on Shadow Lane and walk to the bars. I did do a survey, and I did one 3 years ago. I mean, I only have so many emails, so I can only send it out to so many people. It's unfortunate. I have like 600 email addresses, and I only got back 72 3 years ago. And then this time I got back, I included yours in it just now, I got 73. So you can send out a request for a survey.
I'll give you mine.
Oh, I already wrote it down. I just updated it, yeah, so.
Oh, you got mine now?
Oh, your email address?
Yeah.
No, you can definitely get that to
Gotcha.
me, yeah.
I'll
'cause
send it back.
I send it out every so often, just to, I don't vote with the wind, how people think, but I like to kind of have an
Just to
idea of what people think, and that's the way you do it. And it's disappointing, not even 10%, or maybe 10%, a little over 10% care to respond, and then when you actually act on something, they're like, well, you didn't ask me. Well, I'm trying. So this time around, though, last time, it's kind of interesting, 55% said, allow some kind of on-street parking. This time it went down to 47%, so it's 53% the other way. It shifted in 3 years. The comments were very similar. It's mainly the people who want it, or people who have a growing family, they need 4 or 5 spots and they got room for 2 or 3. And they have to beg, borrow, steal, or just pay the fines and somehow live with it, and that's not right either. That we should balance our budget on them. But, whether it should be a free-for-all, that's not right either. So I'm open for suggestions. I don't know if some cities have more of a relaxed allowance, where if you're showing, man, you need more room year round.
We actually have that.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember, or if it was when you weren't on INS.
Yeah.
But the most recent one I can remember was the Packer City on Broadway and 10th. Packer City Tavern.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was a mother-daughter bartending team that worked there, and they worked close. And when the bar closes at 2, by the time they finish cleaning and getting everything taken care of, it was oftentimes 3:15, 3:30 by the time they would leave the bar. And when they parked behind the bar, it was dark back there, but they couldn't park on the side on 10th because they would be violating the ordinance. So they came and asked Improvement Service, rather than extending or expanding the from 6 to 20 events or what have you, there was a blanket exemption given for those 2 individuals at that location because of extenuating circumstance or extenuating needs. So those types of exemptions have been granted in the past.
I do know we've done it for certain medical situations, right?
Correct.
Where people are caring
Yes,
for others.
that's
and
the other
it's not
thing that's been most prevalent. especially if there's in-home health care. So somebody who has either hospice care or long-term care needs, but the individual is able to be in their home, but you have a visiting nurse, for instance, and those nurses come at all different hours, that we've expanded those exemptions to be more of a blanket exemption.
Under that same exemption activity, we've approved them for just family situations.
And with-
Parents that come several times a month because they have young kids. I'm remembering a couple, I don't remember where, that they're growing kids in college, and they asked for exemptions during the summer because the kids were home and they didn't have enough parking. So it was, they probably could have fit in if they want to call in every 2 weeks and over the 12 weeks of summer, but they got blanketed.
So with those types of approaches, the other thing that we have done is we've sent staff out there to meet with the property owner, take a look at the individual situation, and see if we can recommend something that's another reasonable approach. I know there was a request up in the general area of Gray and Mather a couple of years ago. So one of the things that we had looked at was putting the resident property owner together with the owners of Hanson's to see if they could utilize the Hanson lot for overnight parking, as long as that vehicle was then removed and placed back in front of the house by 7 a.m. When the business needed to use it. So we've definitely been open and worked to negotiate these kind of arrangements with folks in the past. And there are some areas where smaller driveways, but what our experience has told us is those times where the parking capacity is less than what the demand is, those instances tend to be rather short in duration, maybe a couple of years, while you have school-age children, and then the children either start moving on to their own, getting jobs, getting their own places, going off to college, and then they're only back in the summer or things like that. So because that situation in a single family or two family, okay, once we start getting beyond two family, now it's not an owner occupied situation. You're putting a residential property out there for commercial purposes. You are a landlord. And at that point, we expect the landlord to step up and start providing something for the tenant, because they're collecting money for that service, so they should be providing at least one vehicle per living unit. So, we're really concerned primarily with those single-family and two-family residentials or townhouse situations, more the traditional type of occupation. But again, we find those to be more limited in duration over time. And with our current processes, we've been able to accommodate those. And I can say in the 15 years that I've been with the department, I cannot remember a time that somebody has come to the Improvement Service Committee to either request expanding the 6 occurrences to something more than 6, 10, we've had it as high as 20, or the more blanket exemptions for a longer duration. I can't remember a time that somebody's come and asked the INS committee for that has not been granted. So we do understand that those conditions do exist within the community, but we think the process that we have already is able to accommodate that.
Well, I reached out to a friend who lives in Ashwaubenon and asked, because I know they don't have, you can park on the street during the summer. I just wanted the specifics, and they said it's only during the winter they can't. From my perspective of just sharing my personal experience, I always want my car at the end because I'm the first one out in the morning. So I'll park on the road so when my husband comes in, he can go in. So we forget to pull it in or whatever, then we're kind of in danger of getting that ticket. And that's annoying. That kind of thing is so inconvenient. Or having extra, we have a couple of our kids live in another state, so they come to visit, and then we got to call in and make sure they're okay to park on the street. It's inconvenient. Or they have friends sleep over, and one of our daughter's friends got a ticket. I told her as I was going to bed, make sure your car's out there. It's like this thing. I'm always looking out to make sure there aren't any cars parked out, and she got a $20 ticket. She was upset, but she's from Ashwaubenon, so she was like, not understanding, we get fined for that. So anyway, it's just during the winter that they can't park on the road. And that, to me, that's kind of what I'm looking for, if I was gonna make a recommendation. You have something you wanna add? I am running the show. Would you like to add?
Yes, I have a question.
That's why I asked you.
For,
Running the
I'm
show.
sorry, I forgot your name.
Chris.
Chris? I have a monster yard, so I have tons of parking, you know, not 20,000 friends. But I don't even know what the process is, but I'm listening to everybody, kind of like just trying to figure out a remedy to it. And if you were be able to go into the city site and put your name and address in and say, I'm gonna park overnight, that would be a registered thing. You guys would have nothing into it other than if there was a complaint to go do it. Okay, now, what I see is, well, my neighbors do it, why can't I do it? So if they could literally, not everyone's got a printer, I guess. Naturally, the parking facility, if there was a complaint, would go around and go, oh yeah, that license plate is taken care of. I don't know what the process is now, but I guess I'm looking for some kind of a in-between, like you suggested, you know, without hiring extra staff and everything to do it, you know, other than if there's a complaint or a problem, where they could almost, well, one, register, and two, possibly print off something that they could hang in the car, just like our parking permit to park here, you know what I
Are
mean?
you saying to show the neighbors you did get an extra?
Well, so
permit,
that the
or-
neighbor doesn't say, how come he gets to do it? Well, he bought a permit, or got a permit, not that he paid for it.
Well, parking is not enforced solely by complaint. We actually go out and actively patrol.
Okay, well then.
So when
question.
somebody's registering, somehow we have to get that information from the registration to the parking enforcement. So that's why it goes to the human being right now. That way those lists get updated. We would have to figure out some way to get that, fill out the form online and get that data transmitted down to parking enforcement attendants.
And
Almost
we
like if you
basically-
go downtown to get a dog tag, like, but that's a license.
We
you know?
basically have that process that you explained, except we don't expect and don't require the requesting property occupant, because there's some are, you know, rentals, but the property occupant owner, to print anything out and waste their resources. They could call it, they can go on the city website, they can email. But either way, once they give us the information either on a voicemail to the person or on the website, we have that collected. So we know that 123 ABC Street is allowed to have parking in front of their house tonight. They don't have to worry about printing anything out. That's on us, that's on enforcement.
I think you were saying it just so that the neighbors would know you actually went through the process,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Just like the no mow May, you know. Well, I didn't cut my grass, well, I didn't know I had to. Well, I didn't have a sign, so he gets a ticket. He did because he got a sign. And that same issue, you know.
Any other thoughts? Anybody?
I guess, yeah, so Chris, or director, if I had 10 families who, let's say, would be interested in, probably would be temporary while their kids are in high school or college, if they came to you and said, here's what's going on, you would talk to them, go out and review it, and they'd get a fair shake. I think a lot of people think, and maybe even I thought, unless you had some kind of medical condition or some really, really extreme thing, you're not gonna get an exemption. Because
Well,
you could have a lot of people applying, right? I mean,
We are going to look at other options first. We're going to exhaust every other opportunity that we can
yeah.
before we grant one. But yes, we'll definitely take a look at, everyone is going to be looked at individually on its merit. Like any other decision that we make, our decisions are not absolute. If somebody, if we deny a request and somebody feels aggrieved by that, they always have the opportunity to petition to come before the Improvement Service Committee to have you folks weigh in on it as well. So there's always that opportunity.
And historically, those types of requests, whether it's, you know, the family with the kids home during the summer or medical, whatever, those requests officially come through Improvement and Services Committee, so they're recorded, if you will, officially recorded, not just a staff level, yeah, go ahead. into it, you know, I'm not saying that we work on that in shadows, but, and it's an annual request, because things can change annually.
And somebody has to demonstrate that the need still exists,
Yeah.
and because what we're doing at that point, we're not changing the ordinance, we are providing an exception to the ordinance, that does take a council action, right? So that's why they do come here.
What would you guys like to do?
I mean, there's a lot to discuss yet. You know, I don't think 3, 5, 6, 8, 10 people can figure it out here. I mean,
And I'm fine holding another 2 weeks. There's really no rush on this, so that the rest of council can watch the meeting and think
Right.
about it. So this really isn't a time-sensitive thing, and this is a big decision. If you change the overnight parking ordinance, that's a big thing, you know. And believe me, I've had people email me and call me very passionate on both sides. There's some people, you better not change it. It's going to turn the city into junk and it won't get cleaned. Very, very passionate. And I've had people on the other side very, very passionate. These are my streets. Why can't I park in front of my house overnight?
That's one thing, as serving as a parking manager for way too long, it seems, 32 years. Parking, I say this a lot, when I talk to people just about the profession, parking is a very emotional issue everywhere for everyone, one way or the other.
And everybody has a story of where they used to live, how it worked or didn't work. That always plays into it. Always. So
And it's,
I have a lot of stories about different places where it works and doesn't work, so they all kind of counter each other.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's the Milwaukee example that you gave in your report, and, you know, so there's different situations in all kinds of areas. Would you like to make a motion?
I'm going to make a motion to hold this till our next meeting, just to
Okay.
get more
What-
input. And I mean, I'm inclined not to change it right now because of what it would open up. I really would, but I want to find if we could do, if we can bring back maybe the language of what it looks like to apply, or maybe make that more known, or I don't. I think people don't know it. I didn't really know that you could, if you had a family issue where you've got too many. But I'm open to looking at it. I know
Exceptions,
there's even
yeah.
odd. I mean, I just want a little more wiggle room for people.
So would we say with the possible action of creating it in 2 weeks, or what,
I would
just
think
putting it-
whatever's on the agenda, we just hold it for 2
Okay,
weeks to
all
allow
right.
for further public input.
not a
Is that-
setback to staff.
No,
You know.
no, really just,
We already got
I
input.
I really want whatever decision we make on this, we took our time. I mean, back,
Yeah.
it probably took us a year to do the wheel tax. And then I want this to take a year, but
Yeah. More
that
than-
one was a huge decision, and we really took our time and got a lot of feedback and input, right?
Yeah, we did.
So, there's no rush.
The only thing I would
This is almost
suggest
as
is that
big,
that you hold until August 24. When we get to that part of the agenda, and we talk about the next meeting, we probably will not meet on August 10th, so we'll look to amend that, because the next common council meeting, we have common council on the 2nd, but then we don't have it again until the end of August, beginning of September, due to the elections. So as Parks Department had informed you at the previous meeting, that next meeting will probably be August 24th as opposed to August 10th.
Okay.
So yeah, my
Would you
motion
like-
would be to hold this till our next meeting, August 24th.
I'll second that.
And the
Okay,
reason
so-
being, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just, do you want to say your reason? Go ahead.
Yeah, the reason being, I really want all the older people to reach out to their residents and get valid feedback. I don't want this to surprise anybody, because sometimes something will be on a committee and goes to council and people won't be ready, like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that was coming. Now, this will be our third time. There's no reason everybody
Yeah.
shouldn't be prepared to make
Well,
an informed decision, so.
And this gentleman had shared that, like, how do we get the word out there? And we do try. It's
Yeah,
always
well, we
been
do, that's why
good.
we don't, maybe, I didn't want this one to go so fast, because if there was a change or not,
Right.
people want to have their input.
Okay, so Alder
It's more than
Weary,
just my district, it's everybody else, so.
Alder Weary made a motion to refer,
Just
to
a hold.
hold it until August 24th.
Yep.
I'll second.
Okay, everybody in favor say aye.
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 Nays? Anybody nays? Okay, the ayes have it. And so the next one,
Thank you, and yeah, you can,
yes, thank you.
your
Jake.
email or, thank you.
You're in his district, so I don't know how you feel. I mean, it's true.
And,
He-
you know,
that's- you're
this is a
just-
good example. He sent out his own little survey, you know, and
Yeah.
I had someone ask me, but I didn't.
Yeah,
A little more
it took me
experience.
20 years to get that many emails, and we still don't get that many responses.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, fine.
So appreciate you guys coming out.
Yeah,
Thank you.
definitely.
Instead of the whole city went on water, we'd
Yeah.
have to take a bigger room.
Yeah,
No, that's
for
for
sure.
sure.
If we can get it out there, we'll have more people's input. Okay, so moving on to.
Just because your item's done doesn't mean you have to leave.
You want me to send you?
Yeah, I am. You want to bring me something? No, I'm kidding.
Jimmy John's?
Actually, I
please.
had that for
Yeah.
lunch.
Everybody could use some Jimmy
I do love
John's.
Jimmy John's.
Caramel, sweet treats.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
guys
Thank
for
you.
listening.
Okay, so the next item agenda, the consideration with possible action on the report of the purchasing agent to award the petroleum products contract for a one-year contract with 4 one-year options for, that was a tongue twister.
Yeah, that is.
For renewal upon mutual agreement for estimated annual spend of $108,397 with Corey Oil Ltd. Director?
Okay, so in your packet, the purchasing agent has provided a summary. What this is for all non-fuel petroleum items. So engine oil, hydraulic oil, tractor fluid, automatic transmission fluid, gear lube, brake cleaner, engine oil, antifreeze, and diesel exhaust fluid. So this was competitively bid. There were 4 vendors who responded. Low responsive responsible bidder is Corey Oil Limited in the amount estimated annual expenditure of $108,397.33. So staff concurs with the recommendation of the purchasing agent to award to that vendor.
Okay, does anybody want to make a motion? Or any questions? Anybody have any questions?
Yep.
Okay.
Make a motion to accept it as read.
Okay, Alder Campbell makes a motion and seconded
Yeah, second.
by Alder Weary. And everybody in favor, say aye.
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 Do I even have to say nays? Everybody says aye? Okay, all right. I do?
No,
Okay, all right, I thought
We're-
you shook your head yes.
no, we're listening.
I'm like, oh, we're saying ayes.
We're
Okay.
following it.
Out of 3 of us. Okay, the next one, consideration with possible action on the request by Department of Public Works to record a 12-foot wide utility easement along the north property line of parcel 2-275.
Okay, this parcel is located on South Ashland Avenue, very near Seymour Park. So what you see in the graphic that we've included in the packet is the railroad crossing, because it's owned by the rail company that actually does hold the parcel number, so that's 2-948. Immediately to the south, there's a red 7, and you can see 2-275. That parcel had previously been held by the Redevelopment Authority of the City of Green Bay. In consultation with the Redevelopment Authority, they have no intent to ever develop that property. They'd like to keep it as green space. There is a power line that is owned by Wisconsin Public Service that runs along the north property line, and a pole needs to be relocated to accommodate some upgrades to the traffic signals at the rail crossing. Because they can't locate on the rail property, we, the city of Green Bay, took possession of property from the redevelopment authority, and as part of that, like we would on any parcel, on public-facing locations, we would record a 12-foot wide utility easement that's reserved for these types of activities, installation of power poles, telecommunications, things like that. Again, you probably heard me say multiple times that the right-of-way is becoming a very scarce resource. As a municipality that's in excess of 170 years old, we started seeing municipal utilities in the form of water and sewer in the late 1800s. There's up to 3 to 4 generations of buried pipe that are abandoned in place lying under our streets. And as we're looking to upgrade facilities, we're having a more and more difficult time finding a place to put them because there's so much underground already. And now with the TDSs, the spectrums, the telecom companies coming with fiber optic and 5G, we're running into more and more issues with being able to fit everything. So as a condition of subdivision, we do require that developers record these 12-foot wide utility easements on public-facing areas within the public, or within the private area. So again, this is something that we would do if we were subdividing. It's a city-owned parcel, so we're not harming anybody. There's no money that's going to change hands here. So we're simply looking to record that 12-foot wide utility easement to provide utility access for not only Wisconsin Public Service as part of this project, but also for future needs that would have similar space considerations like telecom or fiber optic installation.
So you're obviously recommending it.
Yes.
Right. Okay, does anybody have any questions?
Move to approve.
I'll move to approve by Alder Weary,
Second?
seconded by Alder Campbell. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. Moving on to the next consideration, D4. Consideration with possible action on the request by Alder Stevens on behalf of Shane Zerbel to install 2 streetlights along Van Duren Street between Noodles Street and Spinnaker Lane.
Van Duren Street is, runs 1 block south of University Avenue, so the particular piece, section of Van Duren between Newtalls and Spinnaker lies immediately south of the Webster Avenue, or the University Avenue Market. And what we have there, this block of Van Duren has the back of the store. The market itself is immediately up against the street. So staff is taking a look at this to determine what the spacing of existing streetlights is versus our established standards. So recommendation at this point would be refer to staff for a streetlight study, which will come back to you once complete.
Okay, anybody have any questions? Alder Campbell.
I might add, it borders my district there. In fact, I think that is, this side's my street, that side's his street, if I'm not mistaken. Took me forever to find that little street because it's just a little jut out of my area there. And I'm like, so I've talked to the manager of the store there, and they do got a lot of people loitering around there too. And I think that would actually add to the safety of people hanging out around that store. So I would surely not, I would approve of it for sure. And I've talked to him, I said, hey, I'm the Alder, he needs to start a Stockard shelf guy or whatever, But I've watched him chase people away, they're begging and trying to do stuff out in the driveways, you know what I mean, on the parking lot. So I'm sure they have that around the backside. And there's an old folks home back there too, just off the backside of that there, and you got the thrift store there. It's just, could be a problematic area, liquor store right next to that, and then the dollar store. So, yeah, and if there's not enough light there, I surely would approve of that for sure.
So you're requesting that we refer it back to,
Refer to staff for study.
So, that's if you want 2 lights, normally how far apart do they go?
Generally speaking, about 200 feet between lights, so
Must be
that's what
pretty
we have
dark
to
there
do.
then.
Well, we need to go back there, determine what's back there right now, what the existing spacing is. Are there poles available that could accommodate the lights? If not, we'll have to get estimates on what it would take to install new poles and wiring to get there. So that's the study.
Okay.
So we're asking you to authorize this to do that.
okay. Any other
I would
comments?
recommend the authorization to do this study.
Refer back to staff for study.
Second.
Okay, so Alder Campbell makes a motion, seconded by Alder Weary, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. D5, moving on to consideration with possible action on the review and award of the following contracts. Take them all at once.
Well,
You wanna give
for
me-
for 5A, 5, there is only 5A.
Oh, okay, yep, all right.
So what we're dealing with here is contract GBPD 1-22, police station re-roof. We've included a summary of bids received in the packet. 3 bids were received. This had both a base bid and an alternate bid. Low responsible bidder for the base bid was Crafts Incorporated in the amount of $110,081. Police Department has requested that consideration be given to awarding to Crafts for the base bid. They do not have funding to complete the alternate, but they do have funding that was in their either operating budget or bond issuance this year to complete the base bid.
Okay, anybody have any questions?
Nope.
Okay.
Move to approve
I just
awarding
wanna-
the contract.
Oh,
I do have a question.
yes. Alder Campbell?
This is on Adams Street, correct?
Yes.
And I know there's no set time where they're gonna rebuild or remove the station, so I guess if it needs a roof, it needs a roof, right?
Correct.
The same one we're putting a fence around?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my question.
Okay, so Alder Weary had made a motion to approve it,
I'll second it.
and second by Alder Campbell, and so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's approved, and so we're gonna move to D6, report the award for the following contracts. Roger, gonna take them both at the same time, or?
Yeah.
Okay, you have any comments?
Okay, so Eastside Garage 3-22 office re-roof. We've included a summary of bids in your packet. Low responsive responsible bidder is Northeastern Roofing Incorporated in the amount of $121,489. Sewers 1-22 basin repairs. Low responsive responsible bidder there is PTS Contractors Incorporated in the amount of $1,086,000. So staff is recommending award to those contractors in the amounts as specified.
Okay, any questions? All right, so anybody want to make a motion?
Motion to approve.
So motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh,
We've already awarded
Yeah.
those. We're simply reporting those out. The committee
Reporting.
and council granted us the authority to award those contracts to keep things moving based on the meeting schedule with common council. this summer.
okay, so you're just
We're just reporting
awarding the
final.
award,
Now
okay.
we just
so
gave them $2 million?
the we just gave them $2 million. No, okay, so,
Receive and place on file.
Yes.
motion to receive and place on file made by Alder Weary,
Second.
seconded by Alder Campbell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then the next one is the same, right?
Correct, so-
The non-award of the following contract.
Yes, 7 would be the non-award of the contract Parks 5-22, Bay Beach Wildlife Viewing Platform. Three bids were received. Low bid was Michael's Incorporated, or Michael's Construction, in the amount of $3,164,356.28. However, that low bid significantly exceeded the amount of available funding, so Parks Department has elected not to award that contract. So we're simply reporting out, the project was bid but was not awarded.
Okay, any questions?
Is this the pier?
Yes.
What did we think it would be? 2 million or what?
The hope was 2 million.
Yeah, I believe the budget for that was $2 million.
Colder pool all over again.
Yeah, way
Those
too
bids are
long.
crazy.
Maybe it'll come down. Okay, so,
Motion to receive and place on file?
okay, motion to receive and place on file by Alder Weary and,
Second.
Michael's
Seconded.
Construction.
yeah, by Alder Campbell. And so all those in favor, say aye.
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 All right, moving to item 8, report of actions taken by the Department of Public Works.
Correct, so what we have is granting of licenses. There was a sidewalk builder license granted to Delahut Custom Concrete LLC and a sidewalk builder's license issued to Fisher Concrete. Tree and brush trimmer license issued to Noe Tree Services, Pro One Property Services, and S&J Renovations Limited.
Okay, so we're looking to
Receive
Accept.
those on file.
just receive and place. Okay. Who's with me?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, so Alder Weary's motion to receive and place on file,
I'll second it.
seconded by Alder Campbell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, and number 9, consideration with possible action to award the following contract at a staff level and report the award at the next regular meeting of the Improvement and Services Committee for the GBPD 2-22 security fence.
So Alder Campbell must have been reading ahead.
Well, thankfully, we read the whole
Do
thing
my
prior
homework.
to, yeah.
So yes, well, similar situation to what we were just discussing. Based on the meeting schedule, we're looking to have staff have the council grant staff the authority to award the contract to keep things moving along, so we get that fence installed prior to winter.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion to.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved.
Okay, Alder Weary.
Second.
And seconded by Alder Campbell. So all those in favor say aye.
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 All right, moving on to number 10, consideration with possible action to approve an amendment to the professional services agreement with Modjeski and Masters for the design of the West Leaf Mechanical Rehabilitation and Strain Gouge?
Strain gauge, that's a
Gauge?
typo.
Okay, I was
I'm familiar with quad.
balance testing of the Main Street Bridge over the Fox River B-5-311 in the amount of $12,690.
Okay, so we have been talking for several years about rehabilitation of the hydraulic system in the Main Street Bridge. And we've got a contract with Modjeski and Masters to do some work on sequential design and replacement of various components, as opposed to trying to tackle it all at once. It's just too expensive. So what we've got is a plan to move forward, and as we're replacing some of the components in the West Leaf, what we didn't have in the scope of services for the engineering company, for our consultant, the strain gauges. There is a gauge in the tail of the bridge that senses how much pressure is being placed when the bridge is in the closed position. So it helps the bridge achieve balance when it's in the down position. So we need to complete testing on the strain gauge to get it into the proper balance once the repairs are done. Second item is to confirm the nameplate information on the hydraulic components. When you receive a pump, for instance, the pump has a nameplate on it, and it says how many what the frequency of the pump is and how many gallons per minute, things of that nature. Well, these pumps, some of the pumps we have were put into place in 1998. Some of them we're getting new in order to verify the specification of the pump versus what it can actually deliver in the field, to perform in-field testing with it to verify or validate the nameplate information. So we're asking M&M to do that for us. Third thing is to inspect the live load shoes. Again, where the bridge comes together at the tail, there's a series of shims that fit in there to make it so it's level all the way across, because it's poured concrete. Nothing is 100% perfect. So when it comes down, it has the proper strain load on it, but also to make sure that the live load shoes are in the proper position once the bridge is. So this is all balance issues after the repairs are done.
So, strange question, but this is a Green Bay thing, because I thought that was, I remember my stepdad working on that from the Department
Yep.
of Transportation, so the state.
Correct.
Down there.
This is, of the 3 lift bridges in the downtown, this is the one that is owned by the city. The
Okay.
other 2 are currently owned by the Wisconsin Department of Transportation.
Okay, well, so you're looking for approval? Does anybody
Yes.
have any questions?
No?
Okay.
Move to approve?
So motion to approve by Alder Weary,
Second.
seconded by Alder Campbell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, moving on to number 11, consideration with possible action on a request by the Department of Public Works Parking Division to purchase replacement parking meter mechanisms from Duncan Parking Technologies in the amount of $59,065.
So the parking meters that you're all familiar with,
Okay.
there's an outer housing, then there's the inner mechanical and computer workings of the parking meter, which we just refer to as the meter mechanism. We have a number of meter mechanisms that are beyond their useful life, need to be replaced. With the Duncan Series 70 meters that we have, they're only a Duncan mech will fit inside of a Duncan housing. A lot of these meter companies are very proprietary in their design. So our parking superintendent has done the research. Included in the packet, we've provided you with the request for a substitute or a no substitute, a one-time purchase from a single source, and the justification for that. Again, $59,065 is what the quote is. This comes out of parking budgeted funds, and we had budgeted $60,000 for the meter man replacement, so staff recommends award.
Okay, did you have anything to add?
Steve said.
We've been doing this.
Yeah, I've been doing this a long time. But just an FYI, yeah, if we would have to go with a different vendor, you'd probably have to get new housing. There's a vault in there, exactly, we call it the coin vault, that's it, with the locks and everything. It would, the vault and housing itself costs a lot more than a mechanism. And as I recall, I could be wrong, but I'm vaguely recalling that I think we paid more in 1995 for these electronic mechanisms than we are paying now. Well, back then, everything was new, electronic meters, now it's a dime a dozen. So it is a good price.
Okay, all right, does anybody?
The parking czar says we need it, then we need it.
Yeah.
That should be your new title.
Is that a
Parking
motion?
Moved above.
Okay, so a motion to approve by Alder Weary,
Second?
seconded by Alder Campbell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, and informational director's report.
Okay, just a couple of things very quickly for you today. Today I received a phone call from a resident on Holiday. And if you remember, at our last meeting,
Removal of the
removal of the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And the resident was asking the process moving forward, and I said, gee, that's a great suggestion. We don't deal with this very often. Matter of fact, this is the first time I can think of that we've actually ordered the existing sidewalk removed. So we had a great conversation. It really was very pleasant. She had a suggestion that we send a letter out to the residents. So today, Assistant Director Burnett drafted a letter for the residents informing them of how to proceed going forward, and that letter is going out. So I just wanted to advise you that we got a request, and we filled it today.
They asked me, and I said, I am ready to just take it out.
So, as I was talking to Alder Weary earlier, before the meeting, the sidewalk work from 2021 in Alder X District, the contractor has come back and has started that up, so we're anxious to see that work continue to move forward because there are residents in Alder X District who've been without driveway aprons since May, which is completely, wholly unacceptable.
Yeah.
This morning, we had a new engineer by the name of Brock Benke join our staff to replace Jeff Bodo, who took a position with the village of Kaukauna a few months ago. So we are almost back up to engineering strength with engineers. And we have a new administrative assistant starting in the admin section. Will be assisting in the engineering division to replace Jamie Destish, who transferred up to Parks Department, and that individual will be starting on Monday. So slowly but surely, we feel for the HR department. They are recruiting 50 positions, I think, right now. So they're stretched extremely thin, but they've been successful in getting us some very much needed assistance with some very critical positions. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on what was going on.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions?
I don't know, would HR be possibly looking for a little gaggle of goats to cut the grass in Webster green space? Man, people are coming on good on this.
That bad, huh?
Well, what you told me last time, next week it's gonna get done. That was over a month and a half ago.
Which
So
one?
that's a
In Webster, the medium in between there, it's all weeds and
They
there's
are
a weed
working
killer on it.
That's actually being worked on right now.
Okay, what are they gonna do with it anyway? I guess what's the process so I can
The
answer a
medians on
question?
Webster are never going to look like manicured lawn. They're not intended to. Okay, that's always going to be
I think the
taller.
Facebook ad was sent out, but
It's a no-mow, it's intended to be that way. That's the stormwater management out there, that's the biofiltration that's gonna handle. But there are some weeds in there. The consultant, the environment, or the ecological consultant, Northern Ecological Services, they're actually out there hand pruning, hand plucking the weeds.
Oh my.
And then, that's the only way to do it, to get the native species that you want. Again, Director Ditchak was talking to you about the greenways. Turf grass has a very shallow root system. The native plants that existed here before we started developing subdivisions and things like that. So if you go out and see a meadow, that has very deep root systems. It helps them tolerate drought conditions, fire, anything that, would kill off turf grass. That's what we're trying to develop out there, and there's a number of reasons for that. They're more effective at treating contaminants. They're more effective at promoting infiltration because the root systems keep that soil fluffed up. That's a very technical term that we use, as opposed to getting compacted. If you think about your lawn, periodically, a lot of folks have to have somebody come in and do aeration on the lawn because it gets compacted. Here, if you got those deeper root systems, that keeps that soil free and allows more water to sink in as opposed to run off. And then lastly, it sounds kind of funny to think about, but it was actually a conscious decision. Going with native plantings that don't require regular maintenance, or regular mowing especially. Small engines are the most inefficient, highest polluting engines that we currently have widely available. So your lawnmower emits more pollutants per hour of operation than your car does, or a diesel does actually. We have the same issue. Okay, we've got our bigger lawnmowers and weed eaters that we're out there using. If we can use a native species that doesn't require regular mowing, we're not polluting. So that was a conscious decision that was put in. But I think folks are looking at the median on Webster and expecting it to look like the median on Mather and Bell.
Or Webster up further by the
Right.
hospitals.
Well, that's that education
But they're comparing it
process.
to,
Correct.
they're
It-
comparing
it's-
it to
yeah.
rat habitation.
Uh,
Okay, so you're not gonna win that one, because the people are getting citations for a pallet laying in their backyard. But that's okay, but that's not. I mean, I don't know how many people are contacting me on it.
That's the.
Tell me,
Retired
Steve.
police officers, everybody. And I
Well,
mean, they're like, maybe they need to revisit how they do that,
The
because it looks like
difference
shit,
is,
they say.
the difference is the medians
It
on
does
Webster
look like
are
shit.
designed to be more like the planned natural landscaping, which you are allowed to have,
Until people start throwing
Mm.
cigarettes in it.
so.
Okay, well, thank you, and so, any questions?
I do got some other
Oh,
questions.
well,
On this particular
I
director's
got a-
report, okay,
No, but is it,
okay.
you're done with your director's report?
Yes,
I think
okay.
we have to receive and place on file, correct?
right.
Ed, can I ask questions?
up to you. During the report.
Like for-
Yeah,
You
go
are
ahead.
Madam Chairperson.
Go ahead.
So I got a list of vacated streets along East
Yes.
Shore Drive.
Yep,
Can you just explain what that is? I looked at the map.
sure.
Can you
What
right
that
down the
is,
street from me? Go
um,
ahead.
and this, I'm gonna cross wires with the Parks Department just a little bit here because
Oh, yeah, that was.
we have a tendency to talk about the same property with different names, okay? Talk to Parks Department, they'll tell you that the Ken Ewers Nature Area over on the west side extends from the bay down to military, or down to Hurlbut. And if you talk to Public Works, I will correct you and tell you that the Ken Ewers Nature Area extends from the bay to the parking lot. And at the parking lot, it becomes the former Military Avenue landfill until you get down to the incinerator. Don't consider the landfill as the Ken Ewers Nature Area, stay off the landfill. Landfills are bad, don't go up there. Okay, same thing out here. They're gonna tell you it's part of the Bay Beach Wildlife Sanctuary. I'm gonna say it's the part of the Bay Beach Wildlife Sanctuary that's immediately adjacent to the former Dan's Avenue landfill. Landfill, bad, stay out of it, okay? So it's basically where the East Side Yardway Center is. When that was originally platted, there were streets platted to the south of Dan's.
I figured it out.
East Shore Drive. So they're the same lake streets, or state streets, that exist on the north side.
Right.
It was just platted to the south side. We're vacating those rights of way, the public right of way, so that parks can eliminate the individual lots that nobody's ever going to subdivide that. It all should be part of the wildlife sanctuary property. But before we can do the combination CSM or replat, we got to get rid of the streets.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of took that, trying to figure out why, and then I thought, well, maybe it was proposed one day as another side of residence on that side of the street originally.
Yes, originally when it was.
And then I'm
platted, it
like,
was
well, what are all these
anticipated
people
and-
gonna say? What am I gonna tell them? I don't know what it means, you know? And then I kind of looked, I laid it out, oh yeah, okay, well, that would make sense. And then I estimated how deep they ran in. I'm like, oh, about one city lot deep, you know?
Yep.
And then I started to figure it all out, and I compared all the streets, and And no one called me, so I'm like, maybe they didn't get the memo or something, so I just wanted an answer on it.
Sure.
So, and then I thought maybe it's taken off of the, some reason, a tax roll or whatever, responsibility, the whole 9 yards, right? I mean, finally, it was just cleaned up.
That's all it's doing. It was originally envisioned as a residential subdivision. Between the wildlife sanctuary and the fact that there's wetlands all over there, it's never going to be developed, so there's no reason to be holding on to right of way.
Sure.
So we're just doing cleanup work.
Okay, so
Makes sense.
does anybody, we're all set then? No more
One more?
questions? All right.
Sure,
so-
one more.
Oh, yeah. No, seriously?
The sidewalks that were approved across Down University at the end where I-57 comes in,
Yep, the ones we did
they were
last
supposed to be
meeting?
started right away? There's
No.
nothing going on?
No.
No? Okay.
You've given us the authority to do that. We know it's on the docket, so
All right.
we're making plans to do it. Staff and Matt indicated we had to go through some additional survey out there to get the proper design.
One more.
Not until they're done over by my district, right? And
West,
Alderberry's.
east. Two different
Yes, west,
contracts.
and then east.
What about the city docks down at the city launch?
Those are on order, right?
Yeah, they're on order. We bid out the procurement of the docks. We're just waiting for the material to come in.
Okay. One time I don't want to be in the sporting industry because everyone's bombing me with that.
Well, and I get it. I understand.
I know we
that, you
pushed it through fast, that's all I told
Well, I
them.
know that the community would love to see it. Trust me, nobody in the city wants to see those docks replaced any more than I do. Because I'm the one who's constantly being asked about them, okay? I would love to see them in. But like everything
Everything's
else,
on back order everywhere.
everything is on back order.
Crazy.
Okay, is that, any more questions?
Busy district, you know, big green space.
It's okay, I'm just asking if you have any more questions.
Okay.
All right, so, does anybody want to make a motion to receive and place on file?
Motion received and placed on file.
Alderberry,
Second.
seconded by Alder Campbell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And are we changing this to our
Yes.
next one for August 24th,
Correct.
correct? Okay. All right, anybody want to make a motion to
Madam
adjourn?
Chairman, I would like to I rise to make a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair.
Alder
Madam
Weary,
Chair, I would like
motion.
to second the
And
motion.
Second by Alder Campbell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Since this is on the
Aye.
way by the
I
first
like
name.
that, Madam Chairman.
Very.
Isn't that like a TV show?
Madam Chairman?